Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So alternate formats are a relatively unexplored area in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! The OCG has done a couple of alternate formats with tag duels and things like that, but in the TCG we don't really experiment with alternate format. A lot of people, when they get frustrated with the meta, they'll go to GOAT format or something of that sort. But a lot of the time we don't experiment. And in the Vancouver-Portland area, we're actually beginning to develop a new alternate format as a legitimate format for a tournament setting. And the format that we are considering is Highlander. Now, for those of you who don't know, the people who probably haven't played Magic before, Highlander is a format in which, according to the name Highlander, there can be only one of each card in your deck. Yes, everything is limited in Highlander format to a certain extent. I'll get to that in a second. So that's the way that a Highlander format works. There are a couple of different rules depending on what game you're playing. In Magic, they have certain rules to Highlander, but in Yu-Gi-Oh! We have a certain set of rules. So of course, every card in the game is limited, except for a couple of exceptions. Get to that once again in a second. In the Vancouver-Portland area, the way that we do Highlander, and I think this is a great way to do Highlander if you've done it before. Maybe you want to experiment with this. I just think that this is the best way to do Highlander. So the rules in the Vancouver-Portland area for Highlander is that once again, you can only have one of each card in your deck. You have to run a 60-card deck. So 60 cards in your deck, one of each copy of each card. And then the most fun rule, in my opinion, is that you do not have an extra deck. Not in that you cannot use extra deck cards, but in that you don't have a set extra deck. So if I have an Unknown Synchron and a Photon Thrasher in my hand, which I happen to actually run in my Highlander deck that I have right here, if I have that in my hand and I special summon the Photon Thrasher, normal summon the Unknown Synchron, I can actually go back into my binder and get the Armades out of my binder in order to play it. By the way, Armades is a deadly card in Highlander. Anyway, so those are the rules that we play by in the Vancouver-Portland area. But since Highlander is a generally kind of traditional format, it's a special traditional format in which everything is limited, we figured that we shouldn't just leave it at regular traditional format because the point is to improve skill and to have more fun with it. So if you have the classic cards that create loops and locks and just completely wreck the game, then that's kind of going to defeat the point. So we've created a tentative Highlander format in which there are a certain number of cards that are banned. It's a very short list, and here it is. So the cards that are banned, all the Dragon Rulers, including the babies. The reason why we did that is because the babies and the Dragon Rulers create recurring boss monsters, which completely contradict the point of Highlander, which is to conserve resources. And if you've got recurring boss monsters, then that kind of completely defeats the point. We also just none of us like the babies. We think they should never have existed in the first place, so we were happy to ban those. The Dragon Rulers came later. I'm not sure if I agree with that since they're harder to get in the grave in a Highlander format, but you know, whatever, to each their own, and I was outruled on that one. Chaos Emperor Dragon is banned in our Highlander format for obvious reasons. It just blasts the board and deals a ton of damage. And since life points are relatively precious in Highlander format, we figured that wouldn't be healthy for the game. There's also Fiber Jar. I shouldn't have to explain to you guys why Fiber Jar is banned. Royal Magical Library is now banned because we want to be able to use Guardian Dagger Elma and Gearfried in our decks. So we took out Royal Magical Library to eliminate the possibility that players are going to use that Exodia combo. Then we have Swordsman from a Distant Land is apparently banned. That was a joke from a long time ago. Anyway, Harpy's Feather Duster and Raigeki are both banned because we figure, once again, since the game is conserving resources, cards that have no backlash to them at all are not things that we want to have in the game. We do have both Dark Hole and Heavy allowed, so we figured those two would just be a little bit too far down the road. And then Future Fusion and Mirage of Nightmare are both banned, once again because both create loops or locks or expanded plays or eliminate the point of trying to conserve resources and you play your game smartly. If you've got a Mirage of Nightmare that you can just MST, then that's just a little bit too sacky. And then you've got the Temple of the Kings because activating traps from your hand is dumb. Exchange of Spirit is banned once again because it creates a loop and it creates unfair plays later in the game. Imperial Order is banned because it just locks down the game. We don't want a card to be in the game that just completely destroys the game, especially since Highlander is really focused on power spells. Since you've got things like Snatch, Steal, and Delinquent Duo and Confiscation like that, you don't want a card that just completely defeats the point of the game like Imperial Order. Then Last Turn because it stops Yu-Gi-Oh! From being played. Same with Royal Oppression. Ring of Destruction, we want to limit tie games as much as possible. And then Sixth Sense is banned because we don't like the luck factor of it. So that's kind of the Vancouver-Portland format for Highlander. You guys can create whatever format you want. This is just what we thought to be best. We're probably going to be adding and removing depending on how it works because our first tournament at Dice Age Games for the Highlander format is coming up on Wednesday. So if you guys live in the greater Portland area, y'all should check it out this Wednesday. It'll be at 12:30. So there we go. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. And let me know if you guys want to see more videos on things like Highlander Theory, see my Highlander deck, just talk a little bit more about Highlander. I'll probably bring you guys some Highlander duels from the tournament on Wednesday because I think that would be pretty cool just to show you guys how Highlander looks when it's actually in game. And of course, subscribe for more decks, discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJ Yugioh, and I got a jet.